Good afternoon, financial professionals. My name is Dan Peterson, President of E4 Insurance Services, and I'm here to welcome you to the Brew, where we work with advisors every week to building relationships every week. And we usually start out our Brew by celebrating the national days. And happens to be today is National Cappuccino Day. How fitting for a blog called The Brew. So make sure you go home and have that frothy milk and espresso drink that has become so popular, and celebrate your National Cappuccino Day. Today on The Brew, we have Dave Soczek. Dave is a partner with National Benefits Group, and Dave, you're a strategic partner with us at E4 Insurance Services. We want to thank you for that. We're going to talk about some topics today, and I want to remind everybody that at E4, we focus on really 4 key areas of helping financial advisors. We help financial advisors and their clients protect their income, whether that's from early death, from disability, you're sick or hurt and can't work, from the expenses of long-term care taking over. We provide liquidity for businesses, estate plans. We protect investment portfolios and lifetime income. And fourthly, our 4 key areas of focus is we provide retention and reward strategies for employers. And today we're going to talk a little bit about executive benefits and that whole world of executive benefits. And Dave, we've got some questions teed up that we want to cover.
So what our firm does, National Benefits Group, is we work jointly with individual producers in this unique space called executive benefits. And the reason why we have the practice that we do is a lot of folks aren't well versed in the uniquenesses of what executive benefits are, the tax implications, how to implement a plan, who the plans can be for. They all have unique things. The beauty is they all tie in most of the cases to life insurance, where E4 comes in. So it's a perfect partnership between what we have, what E4 has, and what you guys have as clients.
Yeah. So the first question I think we'll start with is for an advisor that's working with a business, what makes that company a good candidate to have a discussion about executive benefits?
Yeah. I mean, first, the company's got to have baseline benefits put in place. It has to care about some level of employees, if not all of its employees. So it needs to have that group insurance plan in place, maybe put a medical plan in place. It has to show that it wants to reward its employees. Once those plans are put in place and it turns around and says, okay, what else can I do? I've got some other folks that I want to be able to recruit, reward, retain. I want to do something special. So the number one thing is they need to be ready to do something special for those folks. The other thing is they have to be profitable. So, you can have the best heart, best intentions, but if the company's not profitable, it's really hard to want to go above and beyond, because anything we do, or if we're using insurance products, cost money, cost cash. So we need those main things, a desire and profitability, to be able to start the conversation.
Very good. Very good. When is it that in a company cycle that they should start looking at executive benefits?
Yeah, and even though I said a good company has base benefits put in place, a lot of times it's that first desire. Let's say an owner wants to share some responsibilities or ultimately has some key folks. So once they have a key person or someone that owner looks at and says, if that individual, say, take yourself, Dan, if Dan leaves the company, if something happens to Dan, I'm in a hurting situation at that point. I want to do something to retain Dan. I want to do something to protect Dan. At that point in time is when we start talking about executive benefits. The other thing that they can be doing is maybe they're not ready to put in a 401k or a retirement plan for everybody, but they know they have to do something similar for 1 or 2 people. So they might not have gotten to that grandiose spot of putting a plan for everybody, where they want to come back and say, I just want to do something special for 1 or 2 people. And if they do that 1 or 2 people, that becomes an executive benefit plan. So those would be the time periods.
Now, you can do things for one or two people. Is there a lot of regulation around what you're doing in executive benefits?
Yeah, it really depends on what we want to try to accomplish. If it's a retirement plan, we definitely have levels of regulation. I mean, we want to be able to do it for what's considered the key employees, highly compensated, or top employees. Now, that's relative to where you're in the country. I mean, someone who's in Minneapolis versus someone who's in Wapaton versus somebody who's in Manhattan, all has a different level of compensation, but they each could be key. So we have to be cautious of that. But we actually have plans where organizations turn around and say, we want to do something for the top 30 or 40% of our employees. And with proper structuring and plan design, we can accomplish that. So it really is up to the employer and what they deem as key. And then we work within the regulations to implement something appropriate.
So retention is really a key goal of executive benefits. That's part of making sure that you retain. We've had it said that if you fertilize your lawn, and make the grass green where you're standing, you're less likely to have your people start looking at greener grass somewhere else. That's really kind of the concept of providing the executive some sort of additional benefit beyond just the group insurance, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because if an employer's plan is simply group insurance and that's all you're offering as an employer, anybody else can easily meet that and probably already does meet that requirement. But you want to put a hurdle out there. And that hurdle would be an executive benefit, meaning that if someone across the street and came to your key employee, but they learned that they would have to match an additional $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 of supplemental benefits. Now it's a heck of a lot harder than just matching salary and matching a group benefit. I have to now match this other supplemental plan that you as an employer may have already had in place for 5, 6 years to be able to fund. I got to try to meet that within 1 year. And that's going to make me as an employer second guess, can I afford you? And it's going to make you as an employee or the employee turn around going, what am I going to be giving up? Because is it worth it? I've got to now make up this extra money that I'm going to lose if I walk across the street. So definitely means of being able to help folks. And that's where the term golden handcuffs comes, is because of those situations.
Well, every day, Dave, you're helping advisors work with their business clients on these executive benefits. What types of executive benefits are available in the world today?
So we've got a variety of things, whether we call them pre-tax or post-tax benefits. Most pre-tax benefits are going to be your retirement plans, deferred compensation, which would be non-qualified plans, supplemental executive retirement plans. Think of classic pensions, think of classic 401ks, but in a non-qualified version, something that we're doing uniquely for the executives in that part. Something that allow them to save money on a pre-tax basis, to allow their cash to grow and then come out taxable later on, or a promise by the employer that says, if you stay with me, I'm going to give you $50,000 a year in retirement. So pre-tax plans. Post-tax plans are supplemental benefit plans, life insurance programs, excess disability programs, could even be funding a long-term care contract. But with an after-tax plan, it's designed so the employer gets a deduction, the employee gets some additional compensation, but we might put some hooks inside the plan so the employee just can't cash it in and go buy a boat. So those are the two types of plans: pre-tax, post-tax, retirement, and supplemental benefit.
And then, Dave, I know you're an expert in the tax filing of the company, the type of company it is, whether it's a non-for-profit, a for-profit, it could be a benefit type of organization, a C Corp, an S Corp, LLC. They all have little different nuances about how and what they can do, correct?
Absolutely. And so big differences between for-profit and nonprofit. It goes strictly into the accounting. It goes into the regulations. Do we have what's known as 409A, or do we have 457F? Different rules. If it's a nonprofit, is it a governmental entity or not a governmental entity? Is it a state-directed nonprofit? States have their own rules. So when we're dealing with nonprofits, we not only have federal regulatory, but we have state-sided regulations that we have to work with. On the other side, when you start dealing with for-profit, is it a C corp, meaning, basically the owners can also be shareholders, and they can participate in a plan, or is it a pass-through where the owners don't get taxed at the corporate level, but at their individual levels through a K-1 or Form 165? Every one of those dictates what plans are available. Can an owner participate? Can they not? What can we do? So we use kind of a funnel approach with that question you just had as the starting point to kind of figure out what do we funnel out, and then we start helping everybody design based on what we can do. So number one thing we tell everybody is, outside of what does the corporation do, is how are they structured? If you don't know how they're structured, you got to get that data first.
Right. And then we throw wild cards at you, like it's a co-op, Dave. It's a grain elevator. It's
Yep.
owned by a group of farmers,
An ESOP or any of the other stuff. And then we
Yeah.
get into these wild things called synthetic equity, or we get into these other rules that, 20% of the company can be for profit and the other has to be distributable income. So, that funnel gets us the
Right.
idea of what we can do. And the biggest thing I always want folks to know is we've got clients that have a total employee group of 10 folks, but we do a plan for one person. We've got companies with 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people. So no company outside of a true, sole proprietorship is outside of the realm of what we can do to help you.
That's a pretty broad market. And I just wanted people to get a feel for your expertise and why, as a strategic partner of our firm, that we bring you in to consult, because you do have such that background of those types of entities, and boiling it down the funnel to really getting to the right solution. What kind of limits are there on what an employer can do, or to whom they can provide executive benefits that they don't give to everybody?
Yeah, again, that boils down to profitability and the amount of cash and what the employer is willing to spend. There is no deemed cap on what you can do for an employee on a pre-tax type plan. You can promise an employee anything. The bigger question is can you fulfill that promise later on? So, I could promise Dan 10 million bucks 5 years from now, but if I've got 50 cents to my name, that 10 million bucks doesn't mean too much. On the post-retirement side, when we're dealing with executive benefits or supplemental life insurance or disability, then the regulations more go into, what do we have for insurable interests? What will the insurance carriers allow us to be able to purchase for this individual? What can we underwrite for? So it deals in the lines of regulations, but then also the limits if it's a product. And we don't set those limits. Our carrier partners dictate that for us. So.
Yeah, and then we get into all the product solutions and things like that we're not going to get into today. But what information would those advisors listening to us, and as we talk with advisors, what information should we know or obtain from the client in order to further discuss executive benefits?
We talked about one already, the corporate structure. Are they a profit, nonprofit, C Corp, S Corp? Real important question. Asking the question point blank when you're talking with the owner or key person, is there another individual that the owner deems as key? Because if the owner believes that he or she is the only key person, well, we don't really have an executive benefit plan. We now have to take care of, their estate or something, the other part. But if the owner turns back and says, hey, I've got this guy, Joe, and without Joe, I'm going to have to get back into the business, and I really don't want to get back into the business. I want Joe to handle all the stuff I don't want to do. Joe's key. So having those conversations, there used to be a thing called napkin plans. Everything we used to run into used to be able to be written on a napkin. And that's the question to ask, is ask an employer, if you could design a plan that's unique to your company and unique to your people, what would it look like? Who would be in the plan? How much would you contribute? Asking those basic questions, before you know it, you're going to have a thing. Well, I've got this guy, Joe. I'd like to set aside, $20,000 in a year, but I don't want to give him the cash now. I want to give a little bit to him 10 years from now. I want to give him a little bit more at retirement. You're going to get that kind of detail. And when we get that detail, we know what kind of plan they're really focusing on. They may not know, but
right.
we're not Disney. We don't make, wishes and dreams come true, but we can make plans happen based on the wishes of the owners. We can do the best we can based on what we're given. So.
Right, right. Yeah, and if you're, sometimes we work with firms, Dave, that are in the employee benefits or the group insurance space. They're providing employee benefits, whether they're a multi-line agency that has an employee benefit division. So they're insuring them, the property and the casualty, the risks and the liabilities, but they're also coming in with health insurance and group insurance. What if they already find the client has some planning? What do you do in that case?
Yeah, the big part is asking about, is the plan accomplishing what it was intended to do? I mean, we find a lot of plans that were put in place in which the owner had a relationship or simply was just sold a concept or idea, but didn't go through the full vetting process to make sure it was accomplishing what they wanted to do. We run into a lot of times, excuse me, where people will put in a life insurance plan, but they really wanted a retirement plan. Or they'll put in a plan, but the funding might be broken, meaning that it's not meeting what it's supposed to do. Or they run into something, their business changed. I mean, how many people have started businesses, even ourselves as producers, that may have started in group benefits and ended up doing qualified plans? We changed our business, we changed the way we act. So the biggest thing is asking, are you happy with what you have? Have you reviewed what you had? And if not, let's talk about that. What would fix it? And if we had an opportunity, could we take a look at that funding? Because we might be able to put together a better funding vehicle if that's the problem.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, Dave, we're coming up on 20 minutes here. We try to keep our brewcast just, concise, because we know our financial advisors are busy. They're out there meeting with their clients. This has been great. We're seeing a lot of opportunities in a number of areas in working with corporations. Again, that fourth key area of providing retention and reward strategies for employers. Thank you for being a partner with us today. Thank you for what you have. I'll open it up for questions, or if anything in the chat box, if anybody has any questions. I don't see anything in the chat today. Dave, we do want to cover, if they reach out to us, reach out to E4, reach out to their regional, their business development contact within E4, we will bring you in and have a conversation. So you're available to consult and bring your expertise and your firm's expertise in the support of our advisors. Advance notice, just book a meeting with you. That's how we do it, correct?
Yeah, I mean, give me a couple dates so that way I can make sure I'm available. But at that point, the best thing is to have a 15, 20-minute conversation about your opportunity. If I find that you're best suited with maybe a carrier solution or something that can simply be done with the folks at E4, I'm definitely going to let you know that. If it's something that I think needs, a little bit more work or needs some documentation or some other areas like that, then our next step afterwards is, if the producer agrees, let's talk with your client and get to that next step.
Yeah.
So we're a start and stop process. So I'm not going to hold you back from, expanding your business, but at the same time, I want to be able to add value. And if I can do it, I'm going to do so.
Yeah. And Dave, you've worked with us with the advisor, maybe educating the advisor. You've also worked from the standpoint of getting a client on the line, a business owner, talking through that, and even to their consultants, their CPA, their other advisors that maybe need to be brought into this and discussed what options exist. So I know you're just a tremendous resource for us and the advisors we work with.
Thank you.
Well,
I'll just leave on one last part. Let the advisors know, let everyone know, don't fear the accountant and don't fear the attorney, because when your client starts talking about bringing them in, those are buy signs. And that's what we want. We want those folks to be brought in because we're on the first stage. All we have to do is just simply talk with them about what we're trying to accomplish. So.
All right. Well, that's super, Dave. Well, thank you, Dave. We We have reached our time limit, and we'll have our next brew. Look every Wednesday at noon. Look forward to seeing everyone again. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to all of our advisors for the difference they make.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.